Donald Trump continues to prove over and over again that yes, indeed, he wants to be an authoritarian. He wants to be an autocrat, a dictator. Use whatever word that you would like. Donald Trump wants to be the end-all and be-all of power in the United States of America. And I think one of the things that is not getting enough coverage is how this administration has rounded up a ton of Venezuelans and have sent them down to an El Salvadorian prison where they are likely going to be subjected to violence, torture, and possibly even death. And we have since learned that many of these people not only were in the country legally, seeking asylum in the legal way, but many of these people have no gang affiliations at all. They have no criminal record. They've been accused of no crime. So this Trump administration is basically engaged in human trafficking and is sending innocent people down to El Salvador, and we have no idea whether or not we will ever be able to get them back. This is tantamount to what Russia is doing over in Ukraine. They are kidnapping children, and they are bringing them back to Russia, giving them new names, indoctrinating them into the Russian life. This is what America is currently engaged in, and we have to continue to talk about this and continue to call out all these Trump administration officials who seem to have absolutely no clue how the country is supposed to work, how our Constitution is supposed to work, how due process is supposed to work, and every single time they do a media hit, they just prove to be more and more incompetent with everything that they do. Here's Tom Homan over the weekend saying, well, I don't care what the judge thinks, but maybe we'll follow the court order.
You said, I quote, "I don't care what judges think." Now, I know you have since said that the administration will abide by court orders. We heard Donald Trump say the same thing. So what do you mean when you say, "I don't care what judges think"?
No, I don't care what that judges think. As far as this case, we're going to continue to arrest public safety threats and national security threats. We're going to continue to deport them from the United States. I understand this case is in litigation through the Alien Enemies Act, and we'll abide by the court order as litigated. But my quote was, despite what he thinks, we're going to keep targeting the worst of the worst, which we've been doing since day one, and deporting from the United States through the various laws on the books. We're not making this up. The Alien Enemies Act was actually a federal law. It's a statute enacted by Congress and signed by a president. Now, that's under litigation. But put that aside, we still have Title VIII authority to remove illegal aliens from the United States, and we're going to continue to concentrate on those who are the biggest threat to our communities, the public safety threats.
But you're going to abide by court orders as long as, and go through your appeals process, but you are not going to defy those orders.
No.
So how on one hand are you saying, I don't care what this judge thinks, we're going to go ahead and continue to do what we're doing, but then on the other hand say, oh, well, no, we won't defy court orders, even though this administration has already defied court orders. The people who have already ended up in in El Salvador, those people weren't even supposed to made it there. The judge blocked it. They said, this does not look right. This does not look legal. We need to review this. You need to turn those planes around and get those people back here. But the Trump administration went about their business anyways. And these fascist fucks, they continue to say, oh, well, the judge can't tell us we can't target criminals. That is not what you are doing. It appears that the system that you have in place to try to identify people who are part of this Tren de Aragua gang, well, it is not working. Because now you have innocent people locked up in a torturous prison without any due process at all. What you are doing is not working, and then they come on and pretend like they're the big bag tough guys who can continue to do what they want, but oh, maybe we won't defy court orders, even though we already have. They go on to talk about, well, how do you actually determine how these people are in a gang? How is that done?
So how do you determine, or how do your people in the field determine that somebody is a gang member?
Look, there's various methods. No, I've noticed in the media this week, a lot of them don't have criminal histories. Well, a lot of gang members don't have criminal histories. Just like a lot of terrorists in this world, they're not in any terrorist database, right? We only know the information what's in databases based on, for instance, most terrorists we arrest that are identified by the U.S. government are later identified through a Title III investigation or through an undercover operation. They're not in any terrorist screening database. We know that. A lot of gang members, I started as a cop in 1984. Many gang members don't have a criminal history. So we have a count on social media. We have to count on surveillance techniques. We have to count on sworn statements from other gang members. We have to count on, wiretaps and Title IIIs. Everything involved with criminal investigations come into play. So just because someone hasn't been arrested and charged with a crime yet, doesn't mean they're a member of a gang.
How is it possible that the Trump administration hired this guy to be a spokesperson for the president? Was this even English? What is he even talking about? Mushing all of his words together. He sounds like an absolute buffoon. And he's just throwing all of these things to distract you. Oh, we got to do through Title III. We got to, Apparently, the system that you're using is not working. You have a gay hairdresser who has been sent down to El Salvador. You've got a professional soccer player who was here legally trying to seek asylum, who has been sent to El Salvador. You've got many others who have no gang affiliation at all, and because they have tattoos that might look similar to what a gang member might have, you've just shipped them off. This is just absolutely unacceptable. The human rights violations is on a whole other level. I mean, I just can't even wrap my head around it that the United States of America is engaged in this type of behavior. These people should be put in prison. Every single one of them, from Trump all the way down. They're basically kidnapping these folks who are innocent and are sending them off to a prison that is known for violence, torture, fighting to the death. How is this even possible? He's then asked, well, what about due process? Listen to his answer carefully, because this is disgusting.
What we've heard from lawyers representing some of these people is that they deny that they're members of this gang, or either Tren de Aragua or MS-13. Do they get a chance to prove that before you take them out of the country and put them into a notorious prison in a country that they're not even from? I mean, do they have any due process at all?
Confident. Look, due process. Where was Lake and Ronnie's due process? Where were all these young women that were killed and raped by members of TDA? Where was their due process?
Well, the people that did that should be prosecuted.
Alive on a subway. Where's her due process?
Well, sure.
The bottom line is that plane was full of people designated as terrorists. Number one. Number two, every Venezuelan migrant on that flight was a TDA member based on numerous criminal investigations, on intelligence reports, and a lot of work by ICE officers. Matter of fact, 2 days after that flight took off, I even had a discussion with the acting director of ICE, and he reiterated that every Venezuelan on that plane was a known member of the TDA. So,
did you hear his answer? Well, what about the due process before you ship these people to a country that they don't belong to? Well, what was Lake and Riley's due process? Are you serious? This is a... Due process is one of the fundamental pillars of a free country. If the government can just start going around and accusing people of doing something wrong and they don't have to prove it, then what kind of freedom is that? Due process is part of what makes America great. And whether you murdered somebody, whether you smoked crack out under the highway, whether you stole something from a store, you're supposed to be able to address those claims. You're supposed to be able to refute those claims, because when you give the government power to take away your freedom, you must be able to challenge those claims. It is a fundamental right that every person in America should have. But the Trump administration invoked this Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to try to rip due process rights away, so they could just start rounding people up and shipping them off to another country. That is not the American way. And when he is confronted with a story about somebody who was here legally, who doesn't have any criminal record, who has no gang affiliations, listen to what he says.
One specific example, and there are many, But one specific example is somebody that was on one of those flights. His name is Jersey Reyes Barrios. He is was a professional soccer player in Venezuela. And his lawyer says that he was caught up in this because he had a tattoo that he said was chosen because it is a tattoo that is similar to the logo of his favorite soccer team, Real Madrid. Says he's got no criminal record whatsoever and has never been a gang member. Now that person is now apparently in that prison in El Salvador with no ability now to contact his lawyer, no rights as far as they can tell, no rights at all to defend himself or prove his innocent. I mean, what happens to somebody like that?
Well, look, they can make those claims, and of course we have information that says the complete opposite. As a member of TDA, affiliate with TDA, which again,
will you release that information?
It's a terrorist organization.
Will you release the information?
Look, that's going to be that would be litigated in the courts with this judge. I'm not going to get into every specific case because there's 260 cases. We got to count on the men and women who do this every day for a living, who designated these people as members of TDA through, like I said, various law enforcement methods. This will be litigated, but as of right now, I've been insured by the highest levels in ICE that every one of these members, every one of these men and women are members of TDA. There's going to be more litigation on this case, I'm sure. But what was done by the Trump administration was exactly in accordance with federal law, again, enacted by Congress and signed by the President. We're not making this up. We're enforcing laws around the books.
All right.
This is not good enough. You cannot just say, oh, well, maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we didn't. It'll be litigated. No worries. That is not good enough. You have sent innocent people to an El Salvadorian prison. Why do none of these people understand the gravity of the actual situation here? You've got a United States government engaging in what is tantamount to human trafficking. You are taking innocent people, you are rounding them up and shoving them in a plane and sending them off to a place that they have never known, down to a prison that has terrible, terrible conditions. And you did so in defiance of a court order that told you to stop. These assholes do not care. They do not respect the rule of law. They do not respect the Constitution. They do not respect due process rights that are so important to the American system. These people want to operate with impunity. They want to be able to point at somebody and say, get them out of here. We don't like them. And then it happens. These fascist fucks should be locked up. They should be tried in international court for crimes against humanity for what they are doing here. And every single person needs to make sure that this story does not lose the daylight. We have to shine a spotlight on this. This is not what America is supposed to be. We cannot let this authoritarian regime get away with shit like this. This is unacceptable on every single level. Just imagine if your kid was just swept up and sent to another place. I mean, I don't have any words for how upsetting this is, how pissed off this makes me. But this Trump administration is, carrying out an authoritarian takeover of this government. They have started to defy court orders, even when judges look at this and say, yo. And we even learned in an appeals court today that they are still blocking these deportations. And I believe it was the judge in court that said that even the Nazis were treated better than how the Trump administration has treated these Venezuelans. If that doesn't tell you something, then I don't know what will. What is going on here is unacceptable. Everybody needs to get involved and call your congressperson, call your senator, push back against these authoritarian tactics. We cannot allow this to stand in the United States of America. We have to be able to be better. We have to be better than this. We cannot just start rounding up people based on a Real Madrid tattoo that it was on a professional soccer player just because you want to look big, bad, and tough on your mass deportation bullshit. So call your Congress member, call your senator, call anybody you can that would make sense here and push back against these illegal kidnappings and deportations. I will leave it there for now, guys. I'm very upset by this whole thing, if you cannot tell. But if you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We've got to build something that pushes back on this authoritarian regime and takeover. So if you do like what I do here, please do hit that subscribe button. It is free. And if you want to get a better understanding of more innocent people that this Trump administration has just sent to another country's prison, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.